Hey everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to some of you. Maybe I know, given that it's noon here, so afternoon. But for anybody else that west of me, it's getting a little earlier. So originally my plan was to cover one of the Tom Rabbit's last Darth Dawkins videos, but this situation popped up, and when I saw this video, it took me a little while to get through it. And I reached out to Tom Rabbit to ask him if he would join me, just to kind of comment on the video, and if I had any questions for him. I'm not really trying to dig into anything in the past or anything, but really just to kind of get a sense of where things are. It's an interesting video. So I'll set up the context now. Tom is not here yet, so I'm just waiting for him to pop in. But I figured I'd get started and get context set up. So um, Tom Rabbit over on the in the Clubhouse atheist group, I think they have a Discord room channel over on the politics and religion server. And with that particular server over there, they it's a lot of people that used to hang out in the Discord rooms, but ever since the profile change with Discord and really changed the app, a lot of them migrated over there to have their discussions. And some of them have been there seems to be a pretty ripe environment for recorded content. And King Xerxes was either over there. It looks like I think he stopped in. I think it's on there. In this particular video, the first person that's talking to him, I believe, is Matt Adams. And Matt Adams is a Christian, kind of amateur apologist who debates a lot of people in that room. Xerxes, for anybody that doesn't know, and his name is listed there in the, I got him linked in the description for this, was a very aggressive, actually, atheist counter apologist on YouTube, and he was quickly making a name for himself. My friend Michael, the Canadian atheist, did an interview with him over on his podcast, Canadian Atheists, or the Canadian Atheist. The I think he used to spend some time with Tom Jump. In fact, his style, it always seemed to be that his style and Tom Jump's style of kind of argumentation was really similar. So he kind of quickly developed his reputation. He was very aggressive about going after people, and I've reviewed several of his videos. I reviewed a video with him on here. The one thing that was always kind of he always seemed to have a pretty good take on counter apologetics. He and I did not agree at all on politics. In fact, I think the last video that I did that had anything to do with King Xerxes was a video where King Xerxes had called into Pine Creek show, and he and Doug were just sort of rambling on about a lot of kind of cultural conservative stuff for the U.S. Things like the LGBTQ rights issues, trans rights issues, things like that. So that's been pretty much it. A few months ago, the news came out that he had converted to Christianity. He was no longer an atheist, and that started spreading around. And I started hearing words about it, and I got around to just about everybody. Now, the fact that he converted didn't make much of a difference to me. Somebody's going to convert; they're going to convert. Like good for them. Whatever. But people obviously had questions for him, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he was such an aggressive opponent of Christian apologetics, and then he kind of converted. And then, of all things, it got out that he'd converted to Catholicism. I think he says in this video that he's actually um, in the catechism portion of it. So he's on his way to becoming a confirmed Catholic. So obviously, people that had heard from him or watched his arguments were kind of curious, like why the relatively sudden change. Now, Xerxes several months ago had run into some issues where he announced that he wasn't going to be as active on his channel. He had real life things going on, and so I mean that happens to and so he was sorting things out. So his channel, as far as I know, is still up. I don't know how much of his original content is still on there. I didn't check before I went live with this one, but he did have videos up. And if you Google him, you will find, or you do a search on YouTube, you will find other places where he's been, other obviously other than my reviews, other videos that feature him in debates and discussions. Um, so yeah, he kind of went off grid for a while, and let everybody know, hey, the channel's going dark for a little while. I've got real things I've got to focus on. Don't have time for the live streaming. And I think for the most part, everybody was pretty supportive of it. Like, do what you have to do. Hope things turn around for you. Hope you get things back to a place where you got enough spare time to engage in this thing that you clearly are enthusiastic about. And I don't know that he came back after that. And I'm a little that part of the timeline I'm not entirely certain about. I don't know that he ever came back and started doing more kind of counter apologetics. I think shortly after, it was months after that, that it started to come out that he had converted to Catholicism, and that so yeah. Well, anyway, he's kind of resurfaced. I think he's been around a little bit, but he was in this group, and so they had questions for him. So that's what I'm going to be covering right now. And hopefully Tom will be showing up here to um, be throwing his 2 cents in, even though we're going to be hearing from him in the conversation eventually. In fact, let me send him a message real quick, just see if he's online. Let's see here. Just let him know he can join in whenever he wants to. All right. I don't know if he's on Discord this early or not. So with that being said, oh, thanks, Michael. Let the clubhouse crew know that you were waiting on him, Jefferson. Yeah, I just sent him an email. I'm not totally waiting on him. I'm just basically I'm going to start the coverage of this, get it rolling, and then whenever he can get in here and kind of make his opinions known, let him go. I think this video is roughly 26 minutes long. Yeah, I don't know that this one's going to take long to review. I have sped it up a little bit. I've set this one for 1.25. While I'm waiting, just in case he does show up, let me say hello to a few people here in the chat. There's a few names I didn't recognize. Bellywood, good to see you. Um, let's see. Cutlery Duck, nice to see you. Okay, Michael Deaton is here as well. All right. Coco's is here. Good to see you. Thank you for the early broadcast time. You're welcome. Not entirely intentional, but I'm glad it worked out for you guys over there. James Apperson is here. Good to see you. Let's see, Warren is here. Good to see you, Warren. Okay. Alex Baptista wasn't expecting this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that many people were. It was kind of unusual because every time it would pop up, it seems like his name would get mentioned, and I think his name was dropped in I don't know, not my last video, but maybe a couple videos back, and and there were people in like, wait, what happened to King Xerxes? So it's like slowly the word has been slowly getting out, but nobody's ever really actually said anything. I've commented on it a little bit, but without having heard from him directly, it didn't really change anything. Of all people, J.L. Warren did reach out to him when we first heard about it. He reached out to him directly and asked him, and I'm probably going to go over a little bit of that. He did send a response to why he's converted, and I think it'd probably be kind of helpful in explaining, maybe some of his attitude in some of this. Um, but yeah, it's a little, it's an odd one. It's kind of strange. Red Fang is here. Good to see you. RP. My grandma sucks, or just somebody else's grandma sucks? It doesn't matter. And of course, Bridge of the Divide is here. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap this up. Anyway, Spooky's here. I got to say hi to Spooky. Good to see you. And Noah, good to see you as well. Good to see you, Ben. Maya's here. Good to see you, Maya. This video is only 26 minutes long. 3 hours later. Yeah, that could be. And it's a Saturday afternoon, Saturday afternoon for me. So yeah, who knows? Okay, for anybody that I missed to highlight, I do apologize, but I'm going to get this one rolling. Let's see. Let's flip this around. Increase that size there. Okay, so here we go. This is starting off in that room, and like I said, I think the first person that's kind of asking him question are some of the Christians. I think it's Matt Adams is going like backwoods something, and then John Lee is having a conversation with him. So here we go.
We were wondering what it was that maybe it was there a particular reason. I mean, could you give a particular reason why you abandoned atheism? Like for me, it was, I never was an atheist, but I didn't have a relationship with God. And it was the presentation of the gospel. And when I realized who Jesus Christ is, it had such profound impact on me that I believed purely based on the gospel presentation. And I was wondering, we were just wondering what it was that got you to believe.
There's a combination of things, but I suppose the most prevalent one would be that other than the fact that Jesus Christ claimed to be the Son of God, there's nothing else to disagree with the man on.
Okay, that's kind of a weird claim. Also, the one thing I'm going to do, I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to reduce this to normal because I forgot about this. There's some awkward pauses in here. When you speed it up, it reduces the uncomfortable silence in between some of these things. And there's a kind of an odd vibe going on here. So I'm going to play it at normal speed. I'd forgotten about that. So apologies. This initial question, though, kind of goes off smoothly. It's just Matt asking about, this. But this is a strange response because, like, Matt Adams is like, okay, what kind of convinced you? What kind of really pulled you towards the Christian side? And Xerxes seems to be saying, well, there really isn't anything that you can disagree with Jesus about in his teachings, with the exception of, the fact that he claimed that he was the Son of God. Well, the problem with that is that we don't know that he did. We know that one of the Gospels did, the Gospel of John. It doesn't seem to be the case that Matthew, Mark, and Luke make that claim. You can blend all the gospels together, and largely because of the influence of Johannine Christianity that comes from the Gospel of John, you can kind of, oh well, all of this is pointing to him making these claims that he is God, um, and that that's kind of a stretch. That's probably not the most responsible way to read, at least coming from like biblical scholars. Yeah, with the Gospel of John, that writer is making the claim that Jesus is divine, is the Son of God, and that's even kind of tough because just because you made a claim that he's divine doesn't necessarily mean that he's the same as Yahweh. He could be a divine being independent of God, or dependent. The divinity is dependent on the divine, but you know what I mean. He's a different divine being other than the God, the Creator. So yeah, there's a little bit of nuance here. So this seems like this is kind of a weak explanation, um, you know, but the idea that, like, well, there's nothing that you can really disagree with Jesus about is kind of an interesting one, because there's plenty that Jesus is there's teachings from Jesus that have been attributed to him, like the Sermon on the Mount, that include things that Christians disagree with him about. Things like not making your prayer public, doing things in private, turning the other cheek, things like that. Christians have a great deal of disagreement amongst themselves and about translations and interpretations of these sayings. So the idea that, oh, well, you can't really disagree with Jesus about anything except maybe this controversial claim that he's God or the Son of God. I would say that the fact that he didn't come to bring people together, he came to bring division. That he comes with a sword, that you have to hate yourself, otherwise you can't really be accepted by him. You have to turn away your family and your loved ones. And others, it's you have to give no care for tomorrow, for doesn't God, God, look at the sparrow, God takes care of them. Won't your heavenly Father take care of you? These are all things that have taken, depending on the way you accept these words and kind of take them, and run with them, can be very disagreeable, and can be, if you're taking them kind of at face value, could come across as potentially dangerous, but definitely irresponsible things to say, and not even really fitting with any kind of morality. The idea that in Matthew Jesus endorses a kind of thought crime, where it's one thing for you to cheat, to engage in relations with your neighbor's wife. Wanting to engage in relations with your neighbor's wife is the same as. That's made perfectly clear. That's a big point of disagreement. Not, and it's a huge point of disagreement amongst Christians. And all you have to do to illustrate that is ask them where they stand on the issues of homosexuality as defined as sexual orientation or attraction. If you ask them about what part is the sin, engaging in what they call the homosexual lifestyle versus just the attraction part of it, you'll get different answers from different people within different denominations, different faiths, you know. So but especially within Christianity, you will get different takes on this. Sometimes you will get contradictory responses. So this is also another stance that Christ has taken that they're not totally in agreement with. So let's keep going.
Pretty much everything he said is true or came true eventually. You could chalk that up
And that,
to human intuition and the intuitive powers of great scholars putting words in a man's mouth, but then you would have to beg the question of why nobody thought to do that before. When it comes to Jesus Christ, the only thing that anybody disagrees with a man about is that he's the Son of God.
No, that's not true. Even like I said, like the examples that I just gave, even amongst Christians, there are not points of universal agreement about the things that Jesus, that teachings that have been attributed to Jesus. People disagree. A lot of believers disagree.
yeah.
The next day.
Oh, there he is, Xerxes. Yo, what's up?
Oh, okay. So it was the next day. Okay, I forgot about that little clip. So he was in another room and he was talking with Matt Adams, and now he's over here. So
We're talking about you. I am.
Astonishing.
Yeah.
astonishing.
We're talking about your conversion, John Lee and I.
No kidding.
That's right. It's fascinating to me.
We're just kind of going over when Matt asked you why you became a Catholic.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So already this sounds like there's something there. This is kind of the reason why I wanted to ask Tom about this. I don't know if he and well, I'm pretty sure he and Xerxes have had conversations before, plenty of times, because Xerxes had been on the clubhouse conversations, I think, at least a couple of times. But yeah, this is just sort of it's odd to me, like, hey, we were talking about your conversion, and and Xerxes already sounds guarded and bored. Oh, really? Astonishing. Oh, okay. If people have questions about your conversion, I don't know why you wouldn't just share it. I don't understand the caginess already. Like, it seems weird. Other than he thinks like, well, TomRabbittt is a sneak and he's gonna do something to me, or he's gonna twist my words or whatever. Well, you haven't actually delivered anything. All these so far kind of delivered is just some kind of like begrudging attitude about the entire topic, and the entire topic is the fact that he converted to Christianity.
the answer seemed to be, well, John Lee didn't even remember what you said. It was like so forgettable. John Lee says, usually when I hear a testimony, I'm moved. I move so much that I say amen. But in your case, John didn't even remember what you said. It was so forgettable.
Wow. Okay. So this is interesting. So John Lee is kind of telling on him, like, oh, yeah, by the way, like he's telling other, like, John Lee has some issues. I'll give him that. But this is an interesting take from him. Like, normally, if I heard a conversion thing, a conversion testimony from someone, I'd be moved to the point where I would say amen. But I don't. I don't even know what's driving King Xerxes' newfound conviction.
Probably because I never said it in front of John.
Oh, he said he was there.
Oh, okay. So, okay, well, that's fine. Xerxes didn't tell him, but John Lee's claiming that he heard it.
Well,
Or at least
I
part of
was there, but like I said, Tom, I could have stepped away at the part you're talking about because I don't.
the part where you weren't moved. Did John actually tell Tom, like, yeah, I don't like, yeah, it didn't really. Xerxes' explanation for his conversion didn't move me, and I can't honestly, I couldn't even tell you what his reasons were. I can't remember what he's talking about.
remember it.
It made no effect.
Usually, I would remember at least little bits of it, but I think I might have stepped away.
You want me to tell you what I'll tell you, King Xerxes, what I told John. When you were asked why you converted, you said something like, and I'm going to do my, like, as I'm going to be as faithful as I can, like, by my memory. It was something like, well, you can't disagree with the man. Everything Jesus said was either true or came true. And you have to wonder why someone else didn't say it first. Is that pretty accurate, what you said?
I've said something to that effect, but that's not the reason why I converted. I was just talking about like general reasons to believe.
Okay, but his general reasons to, one of the most significant things to believe about Jesus is that, I mean, if you're a Christian, now it's one thing if you believe that there might be a God, but you don't necessarily believe that Jesus was actually God, the creator. He might have in some sense become a divine being or something like this, but or he was a prophet, but he's not God himself, or some portion of the Trinity or whatever. That's sort of a significant thing. So if Matt Adams is asking, and he was the conversation they were having the day before this one, what convinced you of it? And his thing wasn't so much what convinced him, but like, well, really, if you think about it, there isn't anything that you can disagree with Jesus about other than his claim that he's God. If Xerxes is a Christian, that is the central claim that he needs to believe. That's part of the creed. That's the whole point. You acknowledge that Jesus is the Son of God who died for your sins and was resurrected, and through him you can have everlasting life, and that was possible because he was God incarnate. So just saying, like, well, if you think about it, Jesus said a lot of really good things that really no one can argue with, but this kind of controversial claim that he was God, that's the only one that really people can raise an eyebrow about. Okay. That has nothing to do with him being a Christian. Him being a Christian is the eyebrow-raising claim that he's saying is on the table. That's the one that Xerxes has accepted, and he's not really answering. He's just not answering the question.
Oh, I was under the impression he was asking you what convinced you and made you become a Catholic.
I mean, usually I find Xerxes that the kind of people share their personal or religious experience.
I didn't even understand what he just said.
Xerxes, why did you convert?
Simple question.
Well, there's a few reasons, but
Before I play the rest of his explanation, I do kind of want to lay something out here. Like, for me, I don't think that Xerxes has any burden to justify why he has converted. And I don't think in some of the cases that are happening here that some of the people here might feel that way, that he's been talking to. They might like, okay, all right, explain yourself. It might be a little bit more of that. For me, it doesn't matter. If somebody has converted, one way or the other, to me that, mostly because I'm a doxastic and voluntarist. If he's been exposed to more arguments that have convinced him one way or the other. There's not a lot he can do other than to just kind of keep going in his exploration and his education of different things. He might end up going back or something. But the basic question of just saying, okay, well, what convinced you? What kind of did it? It can be, oftentimes it can be kind of hard to explain, but there's usually something there. I mean, if somebody asked me about my, deconstruction, my deconversion from Christianity, I can cite the factors that sort of led to me becoming less convinced over time, and then sort of the big things that really kind of like, or the things that I noticed in myself that really, caused me to realize that I had fallen away from that belief. I didn't really adhere to that anymore. I didn't think it was an actual thing. And for Christians, most of them do have a conversion story where they can recall the moment where they felt that conviction. They realized that that was where they now were mentally. And a deconstruction process for an atheist is kind of the same way, where you kind of have that realization, like, oh yeah, you know what, I don't think that's real anymore. And you can have feeling, it can just be as simple as a mental acknowledgement, but you probably will remember it. Or you can, it can bring some pretty strong feelings with it, depending on how it causes you to react to if you've been a Christian for your entire life or whatever. But putting all that in place, this basic question of like, hey, what kind of convinced you? What brought you over? Why did you convert? I really kind of get the impression from the way that he's doing this that they're pushing on him and saying, we want a justification for why Christianity is true. And I don't think that that's a necessary part of this. Like, and if Xerxes feels like he's like, here we go, we got to play the game, we got to get it. I've got to give a knockdown, error-proof argument for why, the God of Christianity is necessarily true. He doesn't have to do that. All he has to do is explain what convinced him. What was it that kind of tilted you over in that? And that's really that. As far as like your personal stance, that should be enough. I've held that. I also hold that a lot for atheists. A lot of Christian apologists don't. They won't let you do that. That's the Darth Dawkins kind of Cy ten Bruggencate school. Like, I know that you're not convinced God's real, but what you need to tell me and what you need to know for yourself is the argument that conclusively proves that God can't exist, that a God is impossible. That's what they shift it to. But that's different than your level of conviction. And at this point, that's all they're really asking Xerxes about. Like I said, I don't know if internally any of these people have this kind of going on. Like, well, first of all, I want to know why he converted. And second, I want him to justify it. And that'll come up a little bit later.
I mean, I don't really think it matters, honestly. I don't think that giving you some detailed answer is actually going to satiate your curiosity.
Well, I mean, nobody's qualifying that it has to be like extremely detailed. I mean, something like personal experience of God would probably like sufficient in detail.
Sure, there you go then, fine.
But is that
Jesus? Like, Xerxes has a gift for letting things just kind of fall flat. Like every time, like he'll respond to something somebody says, and you can practically hear a splat as a period at the
is
end.
that it?
Yeah. Why is that not enough?
I mean, are you saying? I mean, I'm skeptical of the way you're answering. It's almost like you're being like sarcastic. Is that true? But is that God would probably like sufficient in detail?
Sure, there you go then, fine.
But is that it?
Yeah. Why is that not enough?
I mean,
God is. I mean, that's all Tom put out there, isn't God is like sufficient and detailed. Like, okay, and then that's enough.
are you saying? I mean, I'm skeptical of the way you're answering. It's almost like you're being like sarcastic. Is that true?
Well, obviously, there's going to be, personal revelation involved.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to believe in a personal God if you don't believe in a personal relationship with the God. So, yeah, clearly there was a personal element involved. Seems self-evident.
Okay.
at the very minimum, that anybody who believes in the existence of a personal God believes that they have a relationship with that God, right? Has
What do you mean?
experienced that God to some extent.
Look, man, I mean, I think probably one of the best reasons to believe in God might be if you had some sort of like really amazing personal experience. I mean, King Xerxes, if like, you know, one night God took you by the hand, Jesus took you by the hand and took you on the, you know, a whirlwind tour of, you know, Christmas past, present, and future. And like, yeah, dude, that would be pretty cool, pretty compelling. I mean, but
Right.
Well,
here's
the story of my conversion is a lot less interesting than the story of how everybody found out.
Okay. At this point in the video, this is when I started getting really intrigued. 'Cause I'm like, okay, so he believes that whatever his conversion was to Christianity is just sort of meh. That seems to be kind of, yeah, whatever. I converted to Christianity. So what? So what? So what? Like, yeah, exactly. So what? I don't care. I'm just curious. What did it? He seems to be acting as if like he. The reason that people are curious about this is because this guy was not somebody who was simply like, oh, I believed this one day, and then I changed my mind. That was not King Xerxes' game. That was not his presentation. Like, if most of the time, at least I'd like to think so, and anyone in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Normally, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I try to let them know. Look, I don't often have one-on-one conversations with Christians, but if I'm having a conversation with them, the last thing that I'm concerned about is trying to convince them that they're wrong about their conviction, about the belief itself. Like the fact that they believe it isn't wrong. There isn't necessarily anything they can do about it. If they tell me it's because that, they believe in Christianity because they were raised that way or because they had a subjective experience, they're convinced it's true. That's all perfectly fine. Where I'll end up disagreeing with them about is what follows from that. It's one thing for you to say, well, I'm convinced because of the subjective experience that this is how things work, and now we need a federal ban on birth control, that kind of stuff. That going from getting from step A to that step B is where I come in. Like, hang on, you need to check yourself. Don't get it fucked up. I can appreciate that you're convinced that this is a possibility or it's a likelihood or it's a high probability, or maybe you're even going to come out and be bold enough to say it's a certainty God exists and it's the God of the Bible and he loves me and he died for my sins. Cool, cool, cool. However, the problem that they have is that there really isn't anything beyond just the fact that they feel convinced that's the truth to go on to then say that they can then impose elements of that morality from that faith tradition onto everyone else, regardless of their faith traditions, their backgrounds, their beliefs, their levels of conviction. That's usually that's where the wheels start to fall off. So, but with Xerxes hasn't really, Xerxes' his mode, if I'm exaggerating a little bit, was like it was to be the Roman lions to the Christians in a Roman Colosseum. He would step into these debates, he would go at them hard. He would call them idiots if he caught them in a logical fallacy or got them in a trap. Basically, just act like he'd broken their backs and discarded them, and then would scream out, "Are you not entertained?" And then demand another sacrifice unto himself. This, and that's only slightly exaggerating how he would act. There were times where it was almost like that, especially if it was like a chess night and he had a little booze in him or something like that. He would boast that he could beat anybody in these discussions, and he would browbeat them and yell at them and treat them like shit. Now, this is one of the reasons why, even as a when I would see him in his counter apologist days, I didn't like the way he treated people. There were points that he would make that I would agree with, but the way he'd make the point to somebody, the way he'd present that, I didn't like. So, I always kind of took everything he said. I always had to balance out my impression of him. But my impression of him before was that he was in this as a debate guy. He was engaging in this for the fight, for the conflict. And that's fine. That's kind of where this aspect of social media kind of comes in. This is what he's doing. But now he seems to be acting like, well, this isn't a big deal. I just converted. it's a big deal relative to the way he presented himself as a counter apologist and as the militant atheist that he was when he was attacking, like verbally attacking Christians. And I'm not saying this as as hyperbole. He would verbally attack Christians that he was engaged with in conversations. They would turn into heated arguments. And he was often not generous, not charitable, and definitely not kind. And now he switched to the other side. And when people are like, hang on now, you weren't just an atheist, you were like the atheist, the all caps. Like, what the hell happened in the space of a year that caused you to convert? Like, what is it? And it seems like, oh no, I read some pamphlets or something, and it's like, oh, you can't really agree with some of the statements Jesus made. That's what did it. Like, this is kind of a weird, like, the way he's talking about Christianity is like, well, I sat down and realized that vegetables were healthy, even though I hate the taste of them. So just leave me alone. It's not a big deal. Let me eat my steamed broccoli in peace. You know, now that people, what's more interesting isn't the fact that I'm eating steamed broccoli because I acknowledge it's healthy, even though I hate the taste. The interesting thing about this whole thing is how people found out that I converted and started eating my broccoli. Like, okay, I don't find that particularly interesting. Someone heard about it and then word got out. The reason that the gossip happened was directly related to the amount of enthusiasm King Xerxes had for attacking, Christians. That's the reason why people are interested. That's why they're fascinated. And the strange thing that he's presenting here is like, oh, well, no, it's not a big deal. For others, maybe not, but you made a massive switch. He's not just going, I should quit ranting on this. He's not just like an atheist or somebody who is kind of like not affiliated switching over to Christianity. It's a simple conversion. He made a reputation and a YouTube channel dedicated to going after Christians hard. He went after him hardcore, nonstop. He was a tough opponent. He would acknowledge that. I think he would even acknowledge that now, maybe. And now that he's shifted, but he's not the same kind of Christian. Obviously, he's not like it's kind of odd. So, yeah, this whole thing just is strange.
How did everybody find out?
I was having a private conversation with a friend of mine on here, and unfortunately, the room was not locked. So, in the midst of that conversation, several people joined and overheard what I was talking to that friend about. Within a few days, the rumor spread like wildfire, and I'm obviously not just going to say no. So, people kept asking me in direct messages, and I just said yes. I just confirmed that it was true. But it was never something that I intended to make fully public, at least not yet.
Can I ask you
Why not?
Well, for the most part, I'm still learning. I'm currently in RCIA. I'm a catechumenate. I'm not like in the stage at this point to like sit and argue with people.
John, do you remember what I said about?
But that's okay. So he is doing that. That's okay. It's pretty obvious then that that's kind of where he's leading with this. He's in catechism, right? He's not a confirmed Catholic yet, but he's on his way to doing that. Fine. And he's saying, I'm not at a point where I can argue about it. He doesn't need to argue about it. He doesn't need to make it like, I don't understand why he's doing this. Well, part of me does, because I think this is stuff that he's internalized from back when he was when he was an argumentative and contentious, debate guy on the other side of things. If he doesn't have all of the apologetic arguments under his belt, he's not going to engage even a little bit. The question here isn't, he's not being asked like, hey, you need to prove that Christianity is true in order to justify your position for why you converted. He just needs, like, all he needs to do is answer the question, why did you convert? What convinced you? It probably won't be convincing to me. It's probably not going to be convincing to any of them. But this is odd. Like, well, it's not really that big a deal that I converted, and I'm still in catechism right now, so I don't have all the arguments under my belt right now to be able to argue for this. I've never heard this before. I don't think that part of being a Christian, part of being able to offer your personal testimony for conversion, is different than being an apologist. Those are not the same thing. even I remember that from back in my days when I was a Christian. So I'm not sure. This is like, he's been playing, he's learning. He was really into chess, but now he's playing a different game, and he's going to learn the board, learn all the moves. He's going to learn it from a completely different perspective, and he's not even going to begin to talk about playing until he's like mastered it. And the only thing that he's going to say, like, no, I don't play chess anymore. I play this. Like, okay, why? Well, I tell you why, but I haven't mastered all the rules yet. I'm not a winner at it yet. So once I know it, then I'll come out, and then then you'll see. Like, but I don't need you to explain to me how to win at the game every time. I need you to explain why you chose, what made you choose that game. Like, why'd you switch? I mean, it just as easily, you know what? I miss the community, or my family's Catholic and I wanted to be able to participate in this stuff. So I had to drop the angry atheist rhetoric. I'm not trying to speculate that those are his reasons. I'm just saying it could just be as simple as something like that. Those aren't bad reasons to convert. I don't think. I think, and it's up to the individual, but I'm not going to judge somebody like, they want to be with their family in the faith tradition. They have friends that are in that. It appeals to them in whatever way, whatever. Okay, go for it. They don't have to become they don't have to become William Lane Craig in a matter of months, and then they can start talking about why they became a Christian. This is odd. I don't understand his mindset here.
Hardware mode.
Yeah.
with people.
What do you say there?
John, do you remember what I said about hardware mode?
Yeah.
But Xerxes, I mean, I understand that you're not really, I think what you're describing is like, look, you're learning about Catholicism. You're not currently in a position to like rigorously defend it in some sort of like debate environment.
Yeah, but it sounds
But-
like to me he has a reason, Tom. He's just not comfortable in sharing it right now. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, that kind of sounds kind of accurate also, yeah. But Xerxes, I don't know, maybe you're misunderstanding, because I don't think anybody is actually asking you to defend it, right? No one's asking. Not a single person, right?
That's
the
not
only
true.
the only question really is that we're just wanting to know about the conversion process. Because like you can come up with a defense for Catholicism now, and that you're studying now, right? But the only thing that we're really concerned of is what caused you to change your belief.
Why?
Because that's the one that actually changed your belief. Why would I be concerned with something that you like read in a book after you already changed your belief?
No. Like, why are you concerned with what changed my mind?
Oh, we have discussions here every day, all day. There's arguments that go back and forth. There's almost no success in actually changing anyone's mind on either side, day in, day out. And here comes along Xerxes, and he says, I've changed my mind, and I'm not going to tell you?
Yeah, look out for number. KX is right. TR is trying to bait him to say the reason for the change. He's not trying to bait him. I disagree with you there. He's not trying to bait him. He's blatantly asking him. Yeah, I want to know, what was your reason for changing. He just mentioned just a couple minutes ago. They're not asking him to defend the faith. Xerxes doesn't have to defend the faith, and he doesn't have to come down with some knockdown, logical syllogism to prove why he did it, or why Christianity's true, or why Catholicism's the best way to do it, the only real Christianity. Nobody seems to be asking him that. But there's something about Xerxes' behavior here that seems to be betraying, to me at least, the idea that he has to have all the answers and all the moves pre-planned in front. He sounds like he's vulnerable to this, and somebody's just only asking like, "Hey, we're just curious, what brought you over? Why the change?" All he's got to do is cite his reasons why. He doesn't have to provide justifications or defenses. Just what did it? And he's not doing that. And I think Tom Rabbit is actually here with us now. Let me add him in here. Howdy, Tom. How's it going? I don't know if you can hear me at all. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, one sec. I'm kind of setting up.
I can hear you, audience. If Tom's not, if he's not audible, just give a shout in the comments. How's it been, man?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, it's oh yeah, thanks for changing the avatar. Have you worked with this program before, EVMux?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm glad it let you do that. I've been a guest on other people's shows that use the same software, and it wouldn't let the guest change their avatar. So I'm glad it actually did that for you. Yeah. So I mean, we've made it about 10 minutes in so far, and it's it's really only the point where you're kind of asking Xerxes about this. The one thing I wanted to ask you about, you made a comment to John Lee, and you said something about hardware mode. Is that a reference to like Iron Man, where he just like has to go back to he's got to go back and go back to the armory, build a bunch
So
of
what
new
I
weapons
was,
before he goes out?
I kind of cut out a lot of the beginning because I was talking to John, but I kind of wanted to keep the video pretty tight about Xerxes, But the idea is that my theory is that he came to his belief for some reason that he's embarrassed about. Could be, a girl, could be hard times, and he's just like, I don't know, whatever. Or it could be that, something I alluded to about like his other views. Because the point is, it's something stupid, right? And it's something that he's not comfortable trying to defend, right? Because he knows it's a dumb reason. So the idea is that like these people that do this type of thing, they change their belief, and then they kind of like to say to themselves, okay, so now I got some work to do. Now I need to learn about the Kalam, or I'm gonna like learn about some arguments in order to justify this belief that I got without all those things. Now I'm going to like seek out those justifications afterwards. And so that's what I meant when I was telling John, is like, okay, we're going into hardware mode. It's like we got this belief, now we got to do the work.
Yep. Yeah. Gotta go shopping. In a lot of ways, I think of this as like the person that gets into a hobby, and before they've really explored the hobby, they run out and buy all the accessories. Like they start looking into like doing all the research on all the accoutrements and the accessories that are out there. Like, let's go out and shop for those and get those. Like, you're not totally dead. You haven't really been at this. It's like the guy that I'm going to start riding a bike around the neighborhood for exercise. And all of a sudden they're looking at like high-end helmets and new bikes and shoes and biking wear and all this kind of stuff. Like, you just got the bike and you've ridden it twice. Like, you might want to calm down on that. But like, it seems to me like but at least with a bike rider or a hobbyist, they'll tell you why they got into it. Like, I got into this because physical fitness. I needed to get off my ass. I got into an instrument because I always wanted to play. Whatever. But with this, it's like, okay, dude, like, why did you, I mean, you went after Christians like you were a starving wolf and they're running from you, in the woods or something. And now you've switched and he's acting like, oh, yeah, well, I don't know why you guys are so curious about my sudden and unexpected conversion. Like, yeah, I can't understand why anybody would be like, you know what I mean? Like, if this were somebody else, like, I don't think anyone would. There are certain people that might be atheists that they converted to a faith tradition, and everybody would be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
I mean, that's an unbelievable question to ask. I mean, that's the number one question in the entire community. We're talking about this type of thing, Like, why are you interested in why people believe something? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah. I think that that's a fair response that you gave him, because he's just like, why does anyone care? Like, that's the whole point. Like, people devote entire conversations with the title, like, convince me your God is real, or tell me what convinced you your God was real, something to that effect. Like, the whole point is like, hey, what did this? And unfortunately, like, Xerxes is already in the kind of like the mindset of somebody like, like a Darth Dawkins, where it's like, yeah, I don't care about, I'm not going to talk to you about personal my personal motivations or any of that kind of stuff, or my testimony. I'm going to give you arguments. I'm going to throw out an ontological argument for God, or some just some apologist bullshit. Like, okay, like when the only thing that they needed to know is like, because I don't think that Xerxes here is going to say like there was an argument for God that convinced him. And he has said in just this conversation, like, he's still he's still a catechumen or whatever. He's not actually confirmed. Like, I don't think he's been baptized as a Catholic, so he's not entirely a convert yet. He's just in catechism. Um, so it's, maybe he was hoping that the word wouldn't get out until he got through catechism class, and then went on to the,
Well,
you know,
I mean, typically how these things work, and I think what I was telling John Lee is that, like, the model of I don't know if you remember Khalil or Khalilullah.
yeah,
The same thing happened with him. He had a show, a YouTube channel even, called The Empathetic Atheist,
yeah, that's right. I was trying to remember what
and
his handle
then
was.
then he just became a Muslim, and it's like, wow, this, like, I got to know what happened. Well, what was it that changed your mind? And then they act like, what? What do you who cares? Like, what's the big, and
Yeah,
so after he changed faith, I had the same thing with him, and I asked him, I was like, do you want to talk about it? No, 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 no. Did they just go like radio silence, right? And that is the hardware mode that I'm talking about. It's like, look, I got this. They've adopted this new belief, and now comes the part where they need to like shore up their apologetics, their arguments, and they need to go into hardware mode and figure all that stuff out. The justification after they already have the belief, which is bullshit, right? It's
yeah,
bullshit because, look, you change the belief now, right? There was already sufficient experience, knowledge, argument, or whatever evidence for you to change the belief now, right? And so why do you, what's the point of that? And Xerxes even says as much. He's like, look, I need to learn more about this stuff before I talk about that. What are you talking about, bro? You already changed the belief, right? You don't need to do any research on anything. You can tell me now not only what convinced you, but those other things that you're going to go do research on did not convince you, right? Why do I even care about those things?
yeah. Yep. And and the other thing is that this isn't really consistent with what he said before. So he had, back in July, around about July, I think that was about when I heard around about the same time that I heard about him kind of converting. And J.L. Warren from Bridge the Divide reached out to him and asked him, "Hey, what's going on?" And so Xerxes responded to him, and I made sure to check with J.L. Warren. I'm like, "Hey, do you mind if I share the response that Xerxes sent to you then?" And JL was like, yeah, yeah, it's not sworn, it's not some secret or anything. It wasn't sworn to secrecy. Yeah, if you want to share it. So this is part of what he wrote here. He wrote to JL, "My mental ascent to God was facilitated by my recognition of unnatural evil, also known as diabolical evil. This phenomena is not logically possible in world devoid of spiritual elements. After some serious research these past few months, I believe the logical problem of evil has been solved by Edward Fazer and Dr. Taylor Marshall. I found their arguments more than compelling, which I'd be happy to discuss with you sometime." Now, I looked both of those guys up. Ed Fazer has been on like Capturing Christianity and stuff like that. He's a Catholic apologist. He's had discussions with Graham Oppy that people have covered. In fact, Capturing Christianity, I think, has hosted 2 discussions with Ed Feser and Graham Oppy talking about Ed Feser's arguments, for God. And Taylor Marshall, as far as I know, is he's actually trying to run for president now. I don't know that if he's dismissed his campaign, but he's sort of a traditional. He's one of those. He's not a traditional Catholic in the sense that I think he wants all masses to be held in Latin again, but he's definitely opposed to Vatican II and the reforms. So he's, at least most of them, and yeah, he's pretty obnoxious. So these seem to be the 2 guys that he's turned to for influence, and then he's trying to say there is this argument about diabolical evil that convinced him. He told J.L. Warren this back in the summer, but for whatever reason, he's not just saying the same thing to you here.
Yeah, I heard something about that too.
Yeah, so I don't understand. Like, he's spending more time being cagey about this rather than just saying, well, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but one of the things was I've been reading these arguments about the existence of, unnatural or diabolical. I think some people would call it like, irrational malice or something like that. And it seems like there's a good argument to be made that the presence of that in reality requires some kind of supernatural thing. I don't know how they're going to try to make an argument for it, but there it is. Okay. Like, he put that out there for Bridge the Divide, for J.L. Warren, but
And let me guess, at the end of the message you said like we could talk about this or something sometime, and let me guess they never did.
I don't think they ever had a conversation about it. He did then go on to say, as far as physical evidence, I'd say that the universe cannot be a brute contingency and thus requires an actualizer. In order for the universe to be actualized, the actualizer must have the capacity to make a choice, which is actually kind of consistent with one of the arguments that Ed Feser uses to support the existence of a God. It's the, kind of the Aristotelian, actual actualizer kind of argument. So, and I think I've actually heard Xerxes go after Christian apologists that have attempted to use a variation of that argument with him, and he savaged them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was a different argument. But yeah, as far as I know, that was a statement. And by the way, thanks to J.L. Warren for letting me highlight that. I appreciate it because, and when I saw that, I was like, okay, those don't seem like 2 particularly convincing reasons. But yeah, that's what he offered to him. And so, yeah, I had that in the back of my mind while I was watching this video, and I'm like, why is he being so cagey about this with Tom and company when he was willing to tell J.L. Warren this, like, I don't know, 4
And he's
months ago?
embarrassed. He's embarrassed.
Yeah. That's weird. Okay, I'll play a little bit more. Is there anything any other point you want to make before I keep playing the video?
Well, maybe just that. When I looked at Xerxes' channel, it's only got like 1.4K subscribers or anything, but
Mhm.
he was quite well known amongst the community. And when I look at the comments, there's over 630 comments on this video. There's a lot of people that are very surprised, kind of scratching their heads, and a lot of them even feel like they were sort of I don't know what's the word, sort of taken or had or something by this guy. I think a lot of people kind of got invested in sort of this person, King Xerxes, being this atheist. And when he did this, it's like sort of this, it was a betrayal. So there's a lot of people that feel some type of way about it, and that is reflected in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the idea that he's trying to, like, it just seems like he's trying to dismiss his entire, like you said, even though he didn't have a lot of followers, he was very well known. He had this reputation. He was very aggressive, very outspoken, would take on all comers. And now it's just like, I don't understand why you guys are so curious about why I converted. Like, you're not. You were actively marketing yourself as, like, the antagonist to online Christians. You don't think that you switching, suddenly, like, diverting from that path wouldn't raise questions amongst people that know about you? Like, what the hell, dude? I mean, it's only natural that they're going to be curious.
Yeah, Michael says disappointed is the word. Yeah, I think a lot of people echoed that type of a sentiment. And Jay, yeah, I did write that. That is going to be really funny. Jay's referring to. I'm not gonna like go on some tangent, but yeah, I did write in Pine Creek's chat about John Lee calling into Pine Creek, and
Yeah, I think Michael mentioned that earlier. I was like, oh, that's
that
gonna be great.
that'll be funny.
Yeah, I'll check into that. So, all right, let's see here. Let's play a little bit more of this.
What do you mean? You can't understand why I want to know?
Well, I've told plenty of people, I just haven't told any of you.
Well, Xerxes, I'm curious too because you know me. Is like I'm actually looking to be convinced. It's like I've said it a million times. If someone gives me an argument that would convince me to be Christian, I would be Catholic. I would convert back to Roman Catholicism. And if something was convincing to you, I would be willing to want to hear it. So I would to help me convert.
Well, I'd be happy to have that conversation with you in private, Corsi.
Fair enough.
Would you be willing to have that conversation with me in private?
No.
Why? I don't like Tom. I mean, you and I are not close or anything. You and I have known each other for a long time, but I know you well enough to know that if someone asks you to keep something private or discreet or just flat out secret, that you'll do it. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's true. Even now, there are things currently going on that if I'm aware of that if were to be made public, it would cause quite a stir. They're big deals. I'm not known for like spilling the beans on stuff like this. I think it's just an excuse. He just knows that look, if Corsi's friends with them, then he's not going to be held to the same standard. He's going to give some kind of reason. Of course, he's not going to press too hard. And I didn't even press that hard, to be honest. I mean,
you're not. Yeah, I mean, you're just literally asking, like, hey, what was it that changed your mind? I mean, you've even gone out as far as to say, like, I'm not asking you to defend Christianity. Like, just what is it? What did it for you? Like, and he's just really digging in his heels. Like, nope, not you, Tom. You don't need to know. Maybe he's just getting mentally prepared because he knows that, once he gets his catechism done, he's confirmed, he's got all that stuff going on. Maybe, I don't know if certain, if Catholicism offers like academies and apologetics. Once he's got that under his belt and he's like a brown belt in Roman Catholic apologia, that's when he'll come after you.
Yeah, maybe he sees like maybe Jay Dyer is like the model that he's shooting for. You know what's funny is that I bet if he's not confirmed or maybe the Catholic Church doesn't accept him, then he would be more likely to think that Catholicism is false. Just think about that for a second. Like, this is the mindset of these people.
Well, that's an interesting point to make. I'll keep playing the video because I think that actually ties into something he says later. Yeah, a couple things he says later in this video.
Okay.
All I'll say is I wouldn't add anything new to the conversation.
What's that?
I wouldn't add anything new to the conversation.
I'm going to speed up the conversation just a little bit because now that we've established that there were some uncomfortable like pauses and stuff at the beginning, we can kind of like make this a little bit more rapid.
I'll be listening, but I'm gonna grab a cup of coffee real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So I mean, you kind of
God did not reveal himself to me in a way he hasn't revealed himself to billions of others.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you, man. This type of like caginess, uh, I think the best explanation is that you're just not really comfortable that you're going to have a good answer. I think you think that your answer is going to be like laughed at.
Yeah, I I think that's I think that's a good guess. Cascade, I wanted to ask you because it sounds like my understanding of it, and you kind of corrected me on that because I think I did misspeak. I misspoke about baptism and confirmation. You can be baptized, right, in the Catholic faith, and then by being baptized, that allows you to partake of communion, right? Of the Eucharist. But confirmed Catholic is the next step up. It's sort of becoming a member of the church. Do I have that correct? Because I do know you don't have to be confirmed to attend Mass. I don't think that you have to be a confirmed Catholic to take communion. I and I maybe I have that wrong. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So yeah, baptism first. That allows you to take communion, but confirmation is something else. So I guess that's sort of the weird. So I guess I'm not clear then at what stage he's at because he's saying um, if he's, huh. I wonder if he's in catechism classes now, or if my guess is, I wonder if he's even been baptized. I'm not sure what stage Xerxes is at this point.
I don't think any answer is good enough for the non-converts. Like I have close friends on here who know in detail why I converted. Like I've shared with them the experiences leading up to it, and they didn't laugh. They're very sympathetic, empathetic. They related to it.
Well, you're
So
saying that
I
they were
got-
your close friends, right? Yeah, I don't think you would expect that your close friends laugh at you.
Well, I mean, they were friends.
I don't know why Xerxes would expect anyone in some of these groups to laugh at him. I think this is kind of odd. Like I think Xerxes is not actually like giving himself enough credit. Even if you didn't like his tactics or his style of going after people when he did engage in discussions and debates, he did know quite a bit about counter apologetics. He knew, he did have a pretty good grasp on, uh, you know, at least classical logic and sort of the critical thinking involved in making those kinds of evaluations when you're having discussions about religion or beliefs or whatever. So you know this does kind of betray to me what I think Tom was saying just a little while ago, that he's insecure about this. He's embarrassed because I don't think that he would. I don't think if he understood, like, well, most people are interested in this because he seemed very confident and very convinced of what he was doing as a counter apologist, and now he's switched over, and they've been like, well, how did that guy who was that big of a firebrand and that convinced of being right, what changed him? I mean, did he have like a Damascus Road kind of experience? And it's pretty obvious that Xerxes didn't, because he just keeps kind of like coming back with, no, it was just a run of the mill basic conversion. I mean, I'm kind of putting words in his mouth a little bit there, but that seems to be what he's trying to say. It was nothing special. So like, okay. Like, I mean, people, I don't know why he would think like, well, my close friends and stuff, they wouldn't laugh at me, but I'm not going to tell you clowns because you'll point and laugh at me. I don't know that they would. The reason that they want to know is because even if they disagree with you, they probably respect your background in being able to have these discussions to wonder what it was that really did it. So,
Of mine who even like disagree with me on things. But I value their opinions and their thoughts on things, and I talked to them about it, and their feedback was all I needed on the matter, really. So,
Well, I mean,
because
if you
ultimately,
don't
I'm just not interested in playing the game. I don't care anymore. It's completely uninteresting to me.
playing what game? Like justifying your belief or something like that?
Here we go. Bada, swing.
What do you mean? Yeah, okay. I mean, you don't want to say, that's fine. Typically, this is how it goes. That's why I'm so curious, right?
Xerxes in a hole 10 feet deep. Can't get out because he has big feet.
I mean, usually when people say that they have an experience of God, which you seem to kind of like initially say, but now you're kind of like retracting, as it's not really anything that's different than anyone else has. So I'm just guessing that just means that you didn't really have an experience in the way that we thought you meant. So I don't know. Like you
Oh, what I
realized,
said was that I'm not going to add anything new to the conversation.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not.
That just seems odd. He doesn't have to add anything new to the conversation. It doesn't have to be new. It just has to, like, people are just wondering what convinced him. This is so weird.
So
But that
sure
would
about
be
that.
something new. That would be something new, right? His own experience.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, but like this whole thing about like, oh, I'm not going to add anything new. It's just a tactic. It's just an avoidance tactic. It's just like saying something like, well, you know, who cares? Or like, why do you? There's just like these are just questions and responses used to dodge, right?
Yeah.
And it's just really, you know, it's like I'm not going to add anything new. Does that mean like every single conversation or he had with a theist or a Christian on his channel, like he was only having it because he expected them to like say something new? Like, give me a break.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So Xerxes, do you think that like your disdain for the left had anything to do with it?
No.
Do you think that?
Diabolical evil.
That was a quicker response about that. I was surprised when I watched this video, Tom, when you asked that question. Like, he was quick with that. Nope, that's not it. It's not my hatred of the left. Like, oh, okay. Because he does not like left wing politics or socially liberal politics either.
What?
Diabolical evil, bro.
I mean, you don't think that like you identify more with like, well-dressed people with like haircuts, they're wearing Nautica and like pleated khakis. You don't think that like on some level you identify better with those people than like lesbians with blue hair and gay men with crop tops and short shorts?
I was laughing when I first saw this too, and I think it's weird where he goes with this. Is there anything you want to say? Or I'll just keep playing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, the guy's lying right to my face, right? We all know the answer is he identifies with one more of the other, right? We all know that.
Yeah, but he's not willing to accept your crazy caricatures, Tom. Where he goes with this is really actually kind of pathetic. So, but this is when I really started getting interested in the conversation. When I was like, oh, okay, here we go. We're going to talk about King Xerxes being a paleo conservative. Here we
But
go.
really quickly, I mean, he very much so identifies with that sort of identity.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
I think really his position on atheism was like the only thing that was outside of that.
but he has some very radical views. Actually have a clip I think of him somewhere saying that if he actually were to talk about his political views, he would quote end up on some kind of watch list. That's what he told me.
Yeah. Yeah, which means I mean he made a kind of a, I mean, it was half serious, half joking, but it was something similar, either to me or to someone else in a conversation I happened to be with. I can't remember if he was telling me, but yeah, what I got out of that was like, okay, if we really had if I had a conversation with this guy, we'd end up finding out that he was in something that would get him banned from YouTube. Yeah, I think basically he's a fascist, or like one of these kinds of guys that fancies himself like a monarchist. Like we need to go back to kings, or some kind of meritocratic.
Well, it's actually it's a great system if the one guy is doing all the things that you want him to be doing, right? The problem is that very oftentimes they are not doing that, right? But if that's if it's a person that's really sane and reasonable and makes educated, all these things that you're gonna want, then
leader,
yeah, that's a great system because it skips all the like bureaucracy and bullshit and like all that crap. But it's just not really a practical system, right? And then what if this guy dies? Like, I mean, it's just like,
yeah, and that's where a lot of that falls apart. Like, yeah, ideally, the enlightened king or queen kind of system, and let's face it, for most of these guys, it's a king. That would work, but the problem is that enlightened person on the throne part. That's a variable, and when you get the, you know, just petty piece of crap on there that just uses, everything and everybody to their own gain, to the detriment of everything. You don't have a system in place to check them. That's the worst part about it. And that's the whole point of having a different system where you can try to put that person in check. I would think that Xerxes, well, and here's the thing. I don't know if Xerxes is one of these, like, kind of monarchist bro types. But some of the things that I've heard him tell people, it kind of reminds me of that. Like, he seems like he's more in favor of an authoritarian government. So he could be like one of these pro-Roman Republic types. Let's go back to that system. Like, yeah, okay.
Hello?
Was that a serious question? Oh, my bad. Objection.
Yes, that was
Counselor
100%
leading
serious
the
question.
witness.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Objection, counselor leading the witness.
No, it's a serious question.
Yeah,
Yeah, objection, counselor leading the witness.
it's not leading.
How's it leading the witness? I mean, I gave you two options. There's no leading.
One, you guys aren't in court, and two, it's not really leading. You were just kind of being funny with your description of these two groups, right and left, just using stereotypes. He knows what you're asking him. This is kind of pathetic.
Now you're like, do you relate more with this stereotype or this stereotype? Neither.
Neither.
I reject your dichotomy. Leading the witness.
I mean, you don't identify more with like straight people that have like natural hair colors than like gay people with like unnatural hair colors, things like that. You don't have no part of you
I don't know what
identifies
hair
with one
color
side
has to
over
do
the
with
other at
anything.
all. Like some people
What is
who
hair
think
color
that
have to do
sex
with
and
anything?
gender are the same thing.
this is what
And the other
fucking
people
this
that
is what pisses me off, man.
Yeah,
I
he's-
mean, like,
Yeah, this is he's obviously trying to like play dumb in a
he's
way.
playing dumb. He's being cagey. He's being cheeky. But did you hear what he just said? He said, "What does hair color have anything to do with it?"
Like,
And
yeah,
at the
as if
end of
that's
the video,
point.
and at the end of the video, you know what happens, right? This
Yeah.
guy Jinar says like, "Oh yeah, he talked to me," and like he was talking about diabolical evil, and the example that he uses pink-haired lesbians. This Mister, what does hair color have anything to do with? His own example of diabolical evil was pink-haired lesbians. Give me a fucking break.
I've heard him give some. I mean, the conversation that he had with Pine Creek, and there have been other times where he's gone off on stuff that's political. It's usually about characterizing groups this way, and the fact that he's kind of playing hard to get here with, like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. What I don't know what you could possibly mean. Like, you've used those same descriptions as signals for the types of people that you define as being problematic in the country or in the world. So the fact that he's still trying to act like, oh, that's just irrelevant. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're if anything, you're kind of serving him up a small version of things that he's dished out to other people, and he's acting like this is just like what he's doing the same thing here. He's like acting like he can just erase it from the past. Like, oh no, I didn't really engage in that kind of rhetoric. The fuck you didn't. Like, the fuck you didn't.
Yeah, absolutely did.
I think it's a social. You don't identify with one group over the other at all.
I mean, yeah, obviously I relate more to people who are right than people who are wrong. I mean, that's fine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but
You know,
People that are right versus people that are wrong. I think we
Right.
all want to be aligned with people that are correct rather than people that are incorrect. But the right you're talking about is capital R right, like the right wing. He's just like, oh yeah, and like, hey, do you think that if they're right wing, that means they're correct? Hopefully Xerxes is savvy enough to know that that doesn't follow. But he's being so cagey at this point. Who knows?
You know, he's so cagey, so unsure, so evasive such prevarication, as Darth would say. Did you know that there are literally comments on the video on my channel where people are even questioning if this is real? This is so divorced from the King Xerxes that they thought that they knew. There are actually commenters proposing that this is AI. That King Xerxes AI. I swear.
Oh, I'm
I
not.
swear.
I believe it.
There's actually at least one comment where someone proposes that this is in fact not King Xerxes. This is in fact AI that was generated because it's nothing like the King Xerxes that they know.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems to, and that's the thing to me, that kind of seems fair given that this is such a, I mean, not so much the political, like he, in the past, even he would get more cagey about political stuff than he would about his religious stuff. But the religious stuff, yeah, definitely not. No, he was usually like flat out, full tilt, all gas, no brakes, out to get a Christian, out to show him why they were wrong about stuff. And yeah, so phase one was basically like, oh, I just don't understand why. Like, you can't understand why you had that personality type and then you convert to Christianity, why people wouldn't be like, what the hell just happened? And now you're asking, like, hey, does anything about your political takes have anything to do with motivating you maybe to over to that side? Because I mean, they're a little bit more, that's a little bit more cohesive philosophically. And now his whole thing is like, oh, I don't know. No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. Like, I doubt that. And I mean, I really do, because like in the groups that I was in when I was a conservative, even in my college days, I could be sitting around with a group of like-minded conservative guys all broing out and everything, and then I would say something like, "Yeah, they just need to decriminalize all drugs at minimum or make them legal." And they're like, "Get the fuck out of here, Jeff! You're insane." Like, wait, I thought some of you described yourselves as libertarians, and so you don't think that people should have access to. Like, I'm talking about maybe making them available, and that was my position even then as a conservative. And they're like, no, that's not a conservative thing. We need to keep the drug war going or whatever. So it just depends on whatever topic you took. You'd end up finding yourself persona non grata. If you can, and you definitely didn't want to be the conservative in that group that was like, oh yeah, country, love of country, and brotherhood, fidelity, American power, American exceptionalism. No, I don't believe in God. Like, get the fuck out of here, Tim. Like, if you want to go along to get along, you need to have like the package, the essential package of ideas. Jail writes, plot twist, Xerxes watched Sound of Freedom, and now he's on a deep cover mission to infiltrate the Catholic Church and bring them down from the inside. You might not be wrong there, because the comment that he makes it towards the end of this video kind of sounds like that.
No, you don't have to be a theist to acknowledge the reality of biological sex. There's plenty of atheists who do that too.
Well, I mean, like, right and wrong for you doesn't end there, right? Because like, even when we're talking about gay versus straight, and I know you said you don't identify with either, but I mean, like, in your worldview, gay is wrong, straight is right, right?
Well, yeah, now, but not when I was an atheist.
You didn't think you didn't have any of those thoughts as an atheist?
I didn't think there was anything intrinsically immoral about homosexuality.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
that's weird. Does he think that there's now something intrinsically immoral about homosexuality?
I guess so.
Okay, that would be one of those things like, okay, so whatever convinced you that Christianity was true, you bought into, like, that extends to that idea? Like, how the hell does that work? Then then at that point I'd be like, all right, yeah, defend yourself, man. Because if you thought like it wasn't different then, I guess like you'd have to entirely switch, like, yeah, but that was before I acknowledged that God is like the sky king and whatever he says goes, and one of the things he says doesn't go is the gay. So that's got to go. I mean, that's like, okay. I'm pretty sure back when he was an atheist, he was a champion of like reason and reasoned discourse and trying to think through this stuff and mapping it out. And that's not that. Like, maybe he got tired, Tom. Maybe he got really exhausted and just like, fuck it. I'm just gonna. I'll just join. I'll become a Roman Catholic, and the priest can handle it. I'm tired of. I don't know.
Look, I mean, I've talked to you, I've known you for a while, and I think it's pretty obvious.
You haven't known me that well.
I know you well enough to know that you pretty much have a disdain for leftists.
I have a disdain for just unrepentant hedonism and malfeasance, but that comes from the left and the right.
Unrepentant hedonism and malfeasance. Do you know what he means? Do you think you know what he means by those terms?
Yeah, he just means like degeneracy is what these people call. Just when these religious people look at what they just describe as degenerate activity. That's what it is basically.
Yeah, and a lot of Christian groups they would. Hedonism though is one I hear from certain groups, like they'll throw around the hedonist cosmopolitan, and usually those guys are fascists. Like they're like they're in alt-right talk circles kind of stuff, and they're talking like the hedonism of the globalist, the hedonism of the cosmopolitan, and cosmopolitan / globalist usually equals Jewish. Not for all of them, but for most of them, it's sort of cover language for that. So when he said that before, I was like, unrepentant hedonism. Yeah. But he's saying that occurs on the right as well as the left. I'm just kind of wondering, like, okay, well, if it occurs on the right, what is an example of a right winger in this country engaging in unrepentant hedonism? I'd be curious to hear what his example is. Anyway. Wait, Xerxes didn't identify as gay or straight. My experience is that there's some kind of emotional crisis or trauma that hasn't been resolved. Oh, I don't know. He didn't say that, did he? I think all he said was before he didn't think that homosexuality was intrinsically immoral as an atheist. I think that was his only point. I don't know how he identifies. My guess is he identifies as straight. If I had to guess.
I think there is malfeasance, immorality on both sides, but do you think it's equal?
Well, I mean, it depends on how far you go. Like I would say the Overton window has shifted further to the left, right? So there's more people who fall into the leftist camp that are like reprobate degenerates.
Yeah. It just seems like, your existing sort of takes on the leftists is just sort of like come into alignment with like your theological views now. And it just sort of all fits together.
I mean, yeah, certain people, the Catholic Church has been overtaken by the gays, and it's all a bunch of liberal nonsense.
Okay, that part. Okay, so then why join them?
I think what he's trying to say is like, if I'm motivated by this, the Catholic Church is like accepting of the gays. I mean, that's a good question because he's saying that he now currently thinks that there's something intrinsically wrong with homosexuality, but he's also saying, hey, look at me, like I don't have this motivation because the Catholic Church is accepting of gays. So I mean, he's just going to kind of like be committed to the Catholic Church has got it wrong about gays, right? So that's a good question.
Yeah, and that would also have to be like, okay, depending on who he's talking to here, it's like, okay, is he not aware that plenty of other people are aware that there is a big group, a large component of Catholics that want to reverse course on any projection of tolerance towards LGBTQ? Like that's not controversial.
That's right.
And so it's like, okay, why, like him saying like, well, you know what, I mobbed up with the Catholic. Like, yeah, but there's a whole sub mob of Catholics that want that cut out. They also want to erase Vatican II. They want to wind that back. Never mind the Opus Dei people that are out there that are super fundamentalist. Like he's just acting like, oh yeah, well, you know what, I'm with this group, and like okay, the Catholic Church isn't whatever the current Pope is kind of projecting out there. Like most of his biggest detractors are within the Catholic Church. They think he's too liberal. Like he just said, he called him a communist. Like this is the downfall of the Catholic Church, is this kinder, gentler dude who wants to wash the feet of the poor, like Jesus did. That's gross. Like what the fuck, dude? Like Like, I don't even know what kind of Christianity he's even drifting towards now. This is like, yeah, I'm working on becoming a confirmed Catholic, maybe, or getting baptized in the Catholic. But hey, you know what? The Catholics accept the gays, and our current Pope is a joke communist. Like, all right. And the interesting thing about that is that even though Il Papa can be be called that, that wouldn't keep him from getting confirmed. That should tell him plenty about Catholicism. I don't think they're going to hold that against him, because there's plenty of Catholics that don't like the current Pope. So, but in other organizations, you talk bad about the guy on top or the woman on top. It's usually a guy on top. That's not cool. And he's just like handing this out like, oh, it's everybody knows he's a communist. Like, no, we know that a lot of you say he is. John's asking, has KX been flexing his faith lately, or are we just wondering what converted him? The second part, John. That's really all this video was, is just Tom asking him, like, hey, what convinced you? What made you go to the other side, man? And he's not really said. And now he's actually said something that makes it sound like that would be a reason to not go that way. Maybe not towards Christianity, but definitely maybe not towards Catholicism. Unless, like you said, Tom, like he's just using that as I can't be motivated by my right-leaning tendencies because look, I joined this organization that has all these people I disagree with. Like, for now. Oh
Yeah.
Xerxes.
Yeah, Pope Francis is a communist. Certain people. So you think if I was politically motivated to convert, that I would have picked Catholicism out of a hat?
No,
I would have gone for
I think there's a lot. No, I think there's a lot of reasons why, even today, Catholicism is.
So why would I pick the least popular and most notoriously passive form of Christianity?
Yeah,
I don't think that's true, is it? They're not the most passive. There's plenty of.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, there's plenty of. I mean, Bishop Barron out of L.A. He's a firebrand. There's plenty of these guys that are doing it. Bishop Brand hates atheists. I mean, even fundamentalists like Pentecostals and Calvinists will they'll jump on Bishop Barron's anti-atheism tirades. Like, yeah, go get him. Like, even though they think that he's a member of the whore of Babylon or whatever. But yeah, they'll cheerlead any of that shit. There's plenty. This is Xerxes playing off the fact that he thinks that he can just sort of generalize the Catholic Church as this rainbow flag, touchy-feely, kind of the softer, gentler version that they're putting out there. And it's like, okay, disregarding one, their past, and two, the fact that there's still a huge constituent that are a bunch of militant hard asses that want to get back into that, where they condemn people that aren't Catholic. Let's get back to what we were doing before, prosecuting Protestants, burning them. Yeah, boy. Yeah, Maya, why is he asking Tom? Tom's been trying to get him to answer that. Yeah, that's a good point. Why would I go into this? Good question. Why? Why are you?
I mean, we were talking about this earlier, and there's definitely a rise in the popularity of Catholicism.
You're a Valentinian Gnostic?
Based on what?
And the idea is that a lot of these people are attracted to the ritualistic nature of Catholicism, the history of it, the history of it, not to the same degree.
Orthodox has that too.
Not to the same degree.
What does that even mean?
Not to the same degree?
What does that even mean?
It means that the rituals are
virtually identical. The Catholics and Orthodox the only differences between them are the theological beliefs on essence, energy, distinctions, the filioque, and papal primacy, right?
I'm making currently a comparison to Protestantism or something like that, right? I mean,
yeah, I think Roman Catholicism makes up, I think, about 55% of the total number of Christians in the world. I think Orthodox Christianity is is a fraction of that. It's not even first place Catholics, second place Orthodox, and then third place everything else. Orthodox are kind of way down so this idea that they have the same kind of cultural push or sway is very different. That's not a great argument to make. I mean, Catholics are the majority of Christians. So him trying to say like, oh, well, there's not that much of a difference between us and Orthodox. Really, I've talked to Catholics and Orthodox, and they would beg to differ. So,
Orthodox versus Catholicism, whatever. I mean, you have your personal reasons for that, maybe. But I
Yeah,
think
so it
that
sounds like this is all a bunch of arbitrary speculation.
well, a lot of it is speculation. I don't think it's arbitrary. I mean, like I'm telling you the reasons, right? And I think that there is an attraction for a lot of people to sort of like the formality of it, the structure of it, like, you know, the funny hats and stuff like that, the ritual. I mean, like if I had to make some sort of analogy, it's like if you what's going to be more appealing, like sort of these people like in three-piece suits or like these like business casual Protestants, right? And you can see how there's a type of person who's going to be like, I want to go with the Catholics, right?
I'm going to start using that a lot more often, Tom. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to rip that off. Business cat.
Yeah, that's. I mean, just that's what came to mind because like the idea is, you know, just anyone can really just come off the street. You could like be playing pickleball, you know, in like some shorts and like a polo short and shirt, and then just go to church, and then it's like acceptable. And I just feel people like Xerxes would just like have disdain for those people, you know, like
Right.
you go to church, you put on a suit or something like that, you know. I mean, it's just
And that's sort of the thing. It's like, you know, and I've seen these groups when they talk about this, like which one would they rather be in? You know, the guys wearing like the pinstripe suits with, you know, with the expensive watches and the all blacked out cars, you know, and they're rolling up for mass, or the polo Christian that, like you said, just like walks in after pickleball, you know, oh, a little glass of lemonade and a little howdly doodly, and yeah, like
right.
no, you don't want to be that kind of Christian. You want to be the severe, like mobbed up version of whatever this like organization is, because you think it like looks tough, or it's got like more cachet because it's older. Yeah. And it's got shitloads of secrets. Yeah, the idea like, oh, I'm just going to go to a tent revival with a bunch of Baptists, like, no, you're not about that.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
get
I don't
it.
understand.
Like-
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Does he not like know a lot of Christians? Maybe this is really his problem. Like maybe the only people he's ever known in his life are Catholic, and that's why that, like, oh, that's the reason. Like he could have just said that and saved everybody some grief. Like, why do you think I joined Catholicism? Because it's the only denomination that you know, and a bunch of your family members are in it. That's what I think. Like you're not going to run down the street to the Episcopalians because you don't know anything about it. Why would you become Anglican if your family's Catholic? If you're getting any family or friends or like uh, you know uh, significant other that's giving you pressure about joining the faith, it's probably going to be the one that they're familiar with. It's probably one that is kind of popular in your area, whichever one's kind of slightly traditional. Like it would have been controversial for me as a kid to run off and become a Catholic. Because in my hometown growing up, most everybody was some kind of, they were some kind of Protestant. They're either Wesleyan or Calvinist, Baptist, Nazarene, something like that. They were, or Methodist. I think there's one Catholic church in my entire town, just one, and they're out of 65 churches, something like that. So yeah, it was definitely the minority. It was kind of weird, but this. Yeah, him trying to like, I'm like, oh, I just don't understand where you're going with this. Like, are you aware of the stereotypes about Christianity? Like,
Yeah, Xerxes would never tolerate this in all his previous Xerxes-ness, right? Like anyone who was this dodgy, like he would call out for being invasive and messing around and not being genuine, etc., etc. We all know that's what he would do.
Yeah. Yeah. Aaron Reese, there's also the possibility that he received financial aid from a Catholic mission during his financial struggles. Yeah, who knows? And I don't even know if it takes that. I really don't. I mean, this could just be as simple as other people have said, like, you might have like a Catholic family that's going to lean. I know from previous conversations with him, he said that he's had issues with his dad because he and his dad have like some fundamental disagreements about things. My guess is his lack of belief in God was probably one of them. And if that was a point of contention and that was causing strife between him and his family, maybe he's converting, or he's back into this because that keeps him in line with his family. And to whatever extent he feels he needs to do that, I'm not going to judge that. That's between him and his folks. But I don't understand why a guy that was normally pretty articulate and usually very good about explaining, counter apologetics, has a hard time coming up with a decent explanation to just describe why he wanted to do what he did. And he should be bold enough to just sort of let that go out there, like, okay, I don't want to say it because TomRabbittt will make fun of me. So what? Like, of all the people that he could tell, I would think Tom might not be the one. I mean, you, from what I know, Tom, you're more likely to make fun of him, like, uncharitably for being cagey about this rather than just stating, this is why I wanted to do
That's
this.
probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, if anything, like, yeah, Tom has a reputation for maybe digging at people if they're going to be like wishy-washy about something. But if Xerxes doesn't have a reason that Tom respects, but it sounds like that's really what Xerxes did. That's what grounded it. Yeah. Okay. All right. You do you.
But really, my goal here is not to actually, like, really press him hard on these matters at this time, right?
Yeah.
So this being basically the first interaction, that's not like my plan. I mean, if I want to have any kind of substantive discussion with him about these types of things in the next conversation or in the future, I think I have to sort of not press him very much at all and just kind of like leave some of his answers as they are. So you are correct, and that's not currently my goal to like go after him about this type of stuff. And after this conversation, a lot of people should be saying like, "Oh, I wanted to know this," or I wish Tom would have asked this. That's by design, right? Because if I press too hard, there won't be another conversation. There might not be one already.
Yeah.
But I would be like assuring that there's not another one later.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Three-piece suits, like, are you talking about like the conservative pundits online? Because like most of them
The three-piece
aren't even
suits.
Catholic.
Look, the three-piece suits was just an analogy about like how the different, like a Protestant versus
Well,
a
then I
Catholic.
can't. I'm sorry, Counselor. I can't track anything you're saying because it's all just like fluff and meaningless.
Well, I mean, it's not that complicated. The analogous property is just like, sort of like the seriousness and the formality, and that comes down to in the analogy that's going to be by dress code, right?
Yeah, if we took what you're saying like seriously, right? Assuming you weren't just like farming for content right now, like the logical conclusion is that I would fall somewhere in the Protestant right, or I'd become like an online ortho bro.
Well, which one?
Well,
It's okay.
It's like we're heading towards ortho, bro, or something.
Yeah,
like
but, and here's the thing: he just laid out that he understands. He kind of understands those two broad categories. So why was he telling you before, like, this is fluff and it's not leading anywhere? Like, he just laid it out, like, oh, okay, you think I'm going to become something like Protestant over here, or the ortho bro? Yeah. And the ortho bros are going to be the ones that are probably into, like, the formality, the tradition, the seriousness of it, as opposed to somebody who's more like, oh, hey, the polo shirt wearing Protestant. So he's kind of giving that up, but all right.
I mean,
Like that would be the more likely of outcomes.
Also, I do want to say, I don't think that TomRabbittt was actually, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but I don't think you were farming for content here. I definitely was farming this for content. I did. That's what this video is about now. So I just want to be honest. That's what I'm doing. And honestly too, like the idea that you're asking this question, like this is going to get watched anyway. There are probably a decent number of viewers that if they saw you guys having this conversation in Discord probably jumped in too, right? I think Tom may have had to step away.
So, yeah, I'd say your theory is a bit flawed there, Rabbit. But let me know whenever you guys have the next, conclave on the inner psyche of Xerxes. I'll be happy to stop by.
yeah, that's going to be in about 5 minutes. Wow.
I mean, I get the appeal of Roman Catholicism as far as the attractiveness of social order, cleanliness, style, gold, silver, crimson. But I don't think that's Xerxes. I think Xerxes is in it for like moral reasons.
Well, I mean, what would be a great way to know his particular reasons if he would just say why.
Yeah,
He's told me before.
yeah, I agree. And like I said, I read the statement from J.L. that he gave to J.L. Warren about this was one of the things that appealed to him was the existence of this kind of evil or whatever, an argument for an unnatural or diabolical evil. But he didn't bring that up in this conversation, which is odd. And Jennar is going to actually kind of bring that up, I think, here.
He's told me. He's told
Oh,
other
yeah?
people.
Yeah, what's the reason?
Diabolical evil.
Boom, there it is.
And reconciling that diabolical evil exists in the world. So, like, there are evil people that are evil because of reasons, right? Maybe they steal because they're poor and hungry. But then he cites, like, people that are just evil with no explanation. Like the, hateful, pink-haired, lesbian girl who wants to kill all men.
There it is. Yeah.
Right?
Is that an example he used?
Are you talking about Gabs?
No, I'm serious.
I don't know who Gabs is, but the fact that somebody chimed in like, oh, are you talking about so-and-so? Like that.
Is that an example he used, just out of curiosity?
Sort of, if you're listening to it.
I'm vaguely remembering it.
Oh,
Not
are
a
you
little
saying
bit.
that to your remembrance, that is the example he used? Pink-haired lesbians?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That are evil.
Okay. Yeah. So when I was talking about blue-haired lesbians, right? Do you think I was onto something?
The wrong color, dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just sounds a little
Did get
weird.
the wrong color.
You know how you hear atheists say, "It's people like you. That's why I'm an atheist." It sounds really weird the other way around. It's people like atheists that made me a Christian.
It's pink lesbians, not blue-haired.
I don't know, bro. I'm Catholic because I like the statues and icons. I don't know what else.
Yeah. And Xerxes.
Yeah, I mean, I think John Lee kind of has a point there. I mean, I mean, unless he's trying to say like I've never it's weird because he's never heard it that way before. I don't think that really is all that tough. But here's the thing: I don't think that what would motivate somebody like Xerxes to shift from being an atheist to a believer is the fact that a lot of atheists do tend to be left of center or left of center generally. They're not usually going to be like kind of hardcore. Well, they're not usually going to be like kind of right wing conservative in like kind of the contemporary American sense. They might be hardcore right wing in more of a like kind of a fascist kind of philosophy, if that particular philosophy is about disavowing gods and stuff like that. But it just depends. But I think the majority of a lot of atheists tend towards kind of center liberal to left wing, towards left wing politics, and kind of in there. And center in this country does tend to be kind of conservative anyway. So there's a lot of room there. Xerxes, though, if what he's saying is true about his own opinions, where he would get in trouble, he'd be on a watch list if he was blatantly honest about all of his political views or some of the more controversially held beliefs. I definitely think for him, giving up atheism, given that probably the majority of atheists, one, they're a small percentage of the population anyway, and generally they're not going to be politically aligned with him. So I think it would just mean that it would be easier for him to kind of divorce himself from that group. But I don't know that it would be much of a motivator. I can't say that. I think it would be a component in his motivation. I don't think it'd be the central one.
He's telling me, yeah, he don't care about that at all. Yeah, John, I agree with you, bud. I agree with you, man. There's evil in the world, so therefore Catholicism.
It was actually like pretty philosophical. Like he went into like different types of evil and how some evil can just be explained through like natural means. But then he says the diabolical evil was the term he used at the time. I don't know if he's updated it, but he said diabolical evil has to be kind of, this is paraphrasing now, but has to be like propelled by darker forces, like spiritual forces.
Why?
That's a good question.
Because there's no other option.
Oh,
He
okay.
could-
Yeah,
because
that
no-
makes sense.
No rational individual will do evil knowing that it's evil, I guess.
When you mentioned these dark evils in the world, I thought you were going to go with like serial killers or something. I wasn't expecting the lesbians and feminists.
You weren't expecting pink-haired lesbians.
Yeah, I
Actually,
thought
to
something
a
a little more
serial killer, what
sinister.
they're doing is good. Do you think Xerxes is just playing a bit, Saturn?
I don't want to comment on that because, like,
Do you
I
think
don't
he's
want to,
just
like,
doing the ultimate Catholic op?
yeah, I do. Yeah.
We were
Okay. Yeah. All right.
boy.
Well, that was interesting. So yeah, Tom, I'll give you the last word on this one because I'm sure you probably will run into Xerxes again somewhere on Discord.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to say? I mean, like, this is just look, what is being said are the reasons, are obviously not the reasons. Will we eventually find out what are the real reasons, what's going on? Probably not. There's gonna probably be a lot of BS with this for a while. We'll have to wait and see what happens when Xerxes comes out of air quotes hardware mode. Maybe we'll have a better insight then. But I mean, predictions. You know, let me just say that there's been some people that I've had come out and said that there's various theories about, or well, I should say, people have said that they've heard him say different things. Some people say that he's getting a lot of support financially from some Christians, and that's like a motivator. We've heard the diabolical evil thing.
Yeah.
We've heard. There's a couple other theories out there, but who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. But it seems like he's kind of at this moment on a collision course with something like a Jay Dyer type model.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That sounds like it's probably going to be the most likely outcome.
There's another theory that he has ambitions to run for a political office, so he's trying to like get all the sort of political resume check boxes checked. That's another thing that's someone says that he said.
Oh, they're saying that he said that he's interested in politics, and that would be.
Oh yeah. He definitely has like ambitions to run for a public office of some sort.
Huh. Okay. Well.
Yeah, maybe I'll try and like put some sort of compilation together of like what people have been saying afterwards. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing too is the idea. Like, I'm not all that. Well, I would be interested. The one piece of speculation that I'm interested in is if he has expressed an interest in running for politics, and part of this is a way to kind of like scrub his past and kind of turn things around so that he's a more consistently, he's ticking a box on his conservative bona fides for when he runs.
Yeah, you can't be an atheist. I mean,
You
you're not
can't-
going to get elected, right?
Yeah, you're not. That's not going to work. Now, you could be an atheist and be like really far right and be some kind of weird, like bizarro version of like a right wing Bernie Sanders for the party. You're an independent, but you run for Republican seats and stuff. If you run for president, you run as a Republican. They might let you do that until they ask you about God, and then they're like, nope. But the weird thing about this would be like at a local level, I don't think anybody would care, but if anybody's archived any of the stuff that Xerxes has had, and he did get involved in a local political thing, and somebody was like, hey, this guy's going on and on about his faith and stuff like that and his conservative Christian values, I just wanted to show you this from 2022,
Right.
where he's calling a group of Christians idiots for believing, which I've heard him do, Like, yeah,
Oh, for sure.
and like that stuff's permanent. I don't know if he knows that, but
Yeah.
and maybe that's part of what he's trying to do, because eventually, like, I mean, if he thinks this is awkward, if there's any kind of attempt at him entering into public life and he has to explain that, he's going to have to bow and scrape for that. He should probably become aware of that right now. If people find, especially if he presents, if people's first impressions of him are the opposite of our impressions. We know him as counter apologist first, now turned Catholic. If he puts himself out there in a public position and he's like, I'm so and so, I'm Mr. Catholicism, I'm Mr. Conservative Christian values, and somebody's like, oh yeah, this sounds an awful lot like you from a few years ago. What's this about?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be gobsmacked with that. And if he thinks that whiplash here is bad, oh, it would be much worse there. Because the purity protocols in the Republican Party are not getting less stringent. It's going the other way. So I'm really fascinated with that part of it. The rest of it, like if he's sincerely converted, like if he's sincerely convinced, fine, good for him. Like, and I don't care about his justifications for it. He doesn't have to defend it if he's really done it. If people are aware of things that he said and it makes it seem like it's more likely that this is some kind of maneuver, that's bad. And I think that the speculation at that point is warranted if they think that this is just him kind of making a calculated decision about conversion rather than, being actually convinced.
Well, we'll see, Jefferson. We'll see.
Yeah, you'll probably talk to him, before I do. I don't imagine he's going to want to talk to me anytime soon. So,
Yeah.
but thanks for coming on, man.
Yep. You're welcome. Thanks to everyone for watching and etc. And I'll let you go.
Yep. Everybody like and subscribe to my stuff, or don't, but definitely go and like and subscribe Tom's stuff. So, see you later, Tom. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you later.
All right, see you, man.
Thanks for the content. Yep. See ya. Yep, he's okay. Remove. All right, folks, that's going to cover it for that. I will be back probably after Halloween. I probably won't get another one of these done before then. There's pumpkin carving and stuff to do. So, but yeah, that's an interesting one. I kind of gave Tom, his share of it. I don't think I really have anything more to say about it other than, again, if King Xerxes watches this, if he's a legitimate convert, good for him. If that's where he is psychologically, got no problem with it. I would caution him to be less contentious with people who are interested in the about face that he's made, and maybe try to foster like a Christian sense of charity, and maybe just like tell them honestly what's going on. It's easy for people to speculate, about his motivations and stuff like that, especially given things he said in the past. And I'm right there with him, along with being kind of concerned about it. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But if he's gonna continue to be in the Discord space, he's gonna. It's not gonna take content from me or anything like that. He's going to be getting pushed back, and he's going to get challenged and questioned by people on there. Some of them more charitable than others, some much less. Some of them, might get a little bit more heated. But yeah, he's going to have to, if he wants to stay in those circles, he's going to have those kinds of discussions. He's going to need to bring, some kind of satisfactory answers, because what he's doing right now, I mean, if he's, the answers he was given, Tom, they don't strike me as being the answers that somebody, I think, that would have genuinely converted, had a psychological, emotional, some kind of about face, would have, unless it was overwhelming and he's just not comfortable talking about it. In that case, I think the best thing for him to do is just to tell people that, like, no, it was there was a huge life change. A lot of things happened. I'm not really comfortable talking about where it is because I'm still processing it. And I think most people would just push back from it. But at the same time, it might be better for him if that's really where he's at. Maybe avoid those kinds of contentious groups for a while you're processing it, because that may not help. Okay, that's enough of that. I've meandered enough. So, yeah, Xerxes sure sounds a lot less sure of his conversion than his past statements about beliefs. Yeah, exactly. And And yeah, if somebody's challenging his ideas about, hey, your motivations about politics and stuff like that, he's quick and he's on the spot with it. Like, oh no, you're not gonna couch me in that. You're not. I won't be led. Those are leading questions. Um, but yeah, like, okay, why did you become a Christian again? Oh, it's not important. It's not important. Okay. My follow up question was, first I was going to ask, why did you convert, and then I don't know, why is it important to you? But if it's not, I guess that's my answer. All right, and Michael Fredgren says, less than 3 hours. Good job, Jefferson. Yeah, I'm trying to become more efficient. All right, folks. Well, have a great weekend. I will catch you all later. Please like and subscribe if you're inclined. If you got any questions or concerns, email me, jeffersonspatchcock@gmail.com. I will probably be back with a video next week, likely after Halloween. If Halloween is your thing, enjoy it. If it's not, well, enjoy something else. Otherwise, take care, and I will catch you all later. Let me play the little video to play myself out. Have a great one, folks. Later.